Hello and welcome. So today, guys, it is time to put yet another fragrance house under the spotlight. And today, it is all about my favorite Western niche fragrance house, Xerjoff. You've heard me talk about how Xerjoff is my favorite fragrance house from video to video. And I figured that it was time that we bring Xerjoff under the spotlight. So today I'm going to start by doing a detailed review of the latest launch from Xerjoff Torino 23. Then I have a very special treat for you because I have pulled out of my Xerjoff collection 14 fragrances that are perfect for the spring and summer seasons. I will be sharing them with you, and as I do, I will be ranking them for you. I will go from my least favorite to my most favorite, even though if I'm honest with you, I absolutely love all of these fragrances. But before we jump right in, if this is your first time here, I'm Arahi, and in this channel, we love to talk about fragrances because we love to smell fabulous at all times. I upload videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sundays, and sometimes you even get a bonus video for the week. If that sounds like the type of content that you're interested in and like a good plan, then please consider subscribing, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget, leave a comment. Let's go. So before we jump into the detailed review of Torino 23, let me just tell you a little bit about Xerjoff in case this is your first time hearing about them, which I seriously doubt. But Xerjoff is an Italian fragrance house, and Xerjoff has two major collections, I would say. Even though they do have many collections, there's like two major umbrellas, let's say, under Xerjoff. There's Xerjoff and then there's Casa Moratti. Now, the aim of Xerjoff, in their words, is to blend the most luxurious materials to complement the most affluent global lifestyles. And the fragrances from the Xerjoff collections all come in bottles that look like this, which I'm sure you're very familiar with. Now, the other major umbrella within Xerjoff is Casa Moratti. Now, Casa Moratti, in their own words, is inspired by the ancient art of Italian perfumery, and they're considered a collection of vintage perfumes. And these all come in bottles that look like this. They have the same cap of the Xerjoff collection, but they also have a tassel, as you can tell. I'm sure you're familiar with these bottles. So Torino 23, as the name says it, is a fragrance that was launched in 2023. Now, Xerjoff has launched a couple of fragrances already during 2024, but I'm still in the process of trying to determine if I really want to pick them up or not. But when I read about the notes of Torino 23, I knew immediately that I wanted to add it to my collection because it is a bit different than any of the other notes found in the other Torinos. And actually, from all of my Xerjoff fragrances, I would say that this note structure is quite unique. Now, the fragrances in the Torino collection are launched once a year, every year. So there's a Torino 21, a Torino 22, now we have a Torino 23, and it's just going to continue. Now, there are Xerjoff collectors that, of course, pick them up every year. This is my first Torino because the other two that I had looked into really didn't spike my interest much, but this one, as I said before, seems to be quite different. Now, Torino is a collection that's designed to celebrate the fact that Xerjoff is a silver sponsor for the NITO ATP finals, which are all about the sport of tennis. So Torino 23 comes in a box that looks like this. And then it comes in this box like all other Xerjoff fragrances. And once you open it, it gives way to the beautiful fragrance. Look at this packaging, guys. Absolutely beautiful. And look at that bottle. Absolutely gorgeous. The entire experience with Xerjoff is all about luxury, and you pick that up from the moment you receive a box with a fragrance, because it is just such a delight to unbox a Xerjoff fragrance. So the Torino fragrances come in a 50 ml bottle, and later when I share some of the other fragrances in my collection, I will show you some of the 100 ml bottles. If I had to define in a short phrase the feel of this fragrance, I would say that this is all about class and sophistication while still having the ability to remain very focused and resilient. So this fragrance opens quite fresh but spicy. To my nose, this fragrance is just very, very spicy. I clearly pick up immediately on the cardamom. The cardamom to my nose is very, very dominant in the opening of this fragrance. Even though it is fresh, you still get that cardamom, and there's like a faint rose in the background. Almost immediately after that opening, it becomes very, very clear to me that this fragrance is all about tuberose. This fragrance is strong on that tuberose. The tuberose is very dominant, and once you pick up on that faint rose in the opening, the freshness remains, the cardamom remains, but the rose disappears and gives way to that very strong tuberose note. But although it's a very strong tuberose note, it's not like one that's a bit overwhelming or a bit much. No, it is done just right, but at that, it is definitely an intense tuberose. Once the tuberose has now stepped into the spotlight completely and the rose has pretty much disappeared, and only the freshness of the opening and the spiciness of the cardamom, which is primarily what I pick up, are still like lingering in the backdrop of that tuberose, I start to pick up on the other florals, and they are very, very distinguishable. And the florals that I pick up are definitely neroli to start with, and then I start to pick up on a faint lang lang, and then almost immediately I pick up on the jasmine. Now the lang lang and the neroli will be present, but they will also take like a secondary role, because to my nose, the one that's really competing for that leading star type of role is definitely the jasmine, but the tuberose is not having any part of that, because again, the tuberose is the star in this fragrance. At the dry down, I am picking up all of the notes that have been disclaimed, with the exception of the rose, because the only time that I really pick up on the rose is in the opening, and it was a faint rose, as I said before. And throughout the journey, I do pick up on all the other florals. The cardamom continues to be very, very much present, and at times the neroli tends to like intensify, but it steps in and it steps out, because again, the jasmine is the one that's really trying to take over for the tuberose, but the tuberose will continue to be the star of the fragrance. All throughout the journey, this fragrance is definitely fresh, spicy, and at the dry down, you are going to pick up on quite a bit of powderiness, but the powderiness does not impact that fresh feel overall of this fragrance. It is really a very, very different fragrance and a very different journey than what I'm used to experiencing with Xerjoff fragrance DNA in general. This is a fragrance that is really, really performing very well for me. And right now it's giving me 8+ hours without having to overspray. And one day I did overspray, and I can tell you that those clothes are still in my hamper, and I can still smell this fragrance on them. And it's been probably about 3 days now. So this is a fragrance that I would not say is beast mode, because it's not giving me like 12 hours on skin, but it is definitely bordering on beast, because without a problem, it's giving me 8+ hours on skin. This fragrance is not one that I would consider to be a safe blind buy at all, because it is quite complex, and that journey is quite complex also. There's such an interaction between the florals and the spiciness, and then there's that powderiness. It is a beautiful fragrance, don't get me wrong. I really am enjoying it, but it's just not a safe blind buy. This is also a fragrance that to me is unisex. This does not lean feminine or masculine to my nose whatsoever. This is also a fragrance that I would say is in the maturity meter, I would say 25 plus. I definitely see someone who is 25 and older using and being able to pull off this fragrance. This is a fragrance that I would reserve exclusively for spring, summer, and maybe the beginning of the fall. But I don't see myself pulling this fragrance during the winter or during a very cold day during the fall. This fragrance, I really believe, was designed with spring and summer in mind exclusively. So as I said before, I am getting 8+ hours on skin with this fragrance, and I am getting a very strong projection during the first 2 hours, after which I get like this scent bubble. And the sillage in this fragrance is moderate though. This is not a fragrance that has garnered me any compliments so far, but it definitely is a fragrance that I can smell on myself all throughout the day. This is a fragrance that I think you can dress up and you can dress down, and you can use it for pretty much any occasion because it does have a very sophisticated and beautiful and perfect, like for spring and summer, all type of occasions type of scent. So in order for you to enjoy this fragrance, you have to be looking for a fragrance that is not your typical like floral, fruity, spicy kind of spring summer fragrance, because this fragrance has quite a bit of character. It does have a very complex olfactory journey, and at the dry down, you are going to get a very interesting combination of notes. This fragrance, I dare say, is extremely unique, but the DNA does remind me of the Tony Iommi fragrance that I have from Xerjoff. In order for you to enjoy this fragrance, you absolutely need to be a tuberose lover and someone who also enjoys notes like violet and orris, because there is definitely such a mix here of the white florals and the orris, and then there's that spiciness. You have to love cardamom. There's just a very, very interesting blend, which is what makes me love this fragrance. But this is not a fragrance for someone who's just starting their journey. There is absolutely no oud. I pick up no oud in this fragrance, but this is not a simple journey fragrance, I guess is what I'm trying to say. All in all, I am really, really happy that I picked up this fragrance, and I just knew that with that combination of notes, I definitely wanted to have it in my collection, so I picked it up. But I am telling you, keep in mind that I do not recommend that you blind buy this fragrance. I really think that if you're interested, you should get yourself a sample or a decant and test it on skin for a couple of days before you make a decision. This is definitely a fragrance that if you are a tuberose lover and you love violet, iris, orris type fragrances, you are going to fall in love with this one because those notes are pretty dominant. There's also that neroli, which plays a very, very key role because, as I said before, the neroli steps in and backs out and steps in and backs out. And it has varying degrees of intensity depending on where you are on the olfactory journey. Also keep in mind that this is definitely a powdery dry down fragrance. But I think that this fragrance is a delight, and this fragrance may actually make me have to pick up a couple of the other Torinos that I've missed in the past. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and share with you 14 fragrances from my Xerjoff collection that I pulled because I feel that they are specific to the spring and summer seasons, and some of them are good for all throughout the year. But the 14 that I'll be sharing with you are definitely fragrances that I highly recommend and that are perfect for spring and summer. And as I go along, I will talk a little bit more about them. But let's go ahead and start with number 14. So number 14 is the least favorite, of course, from the group, but I want you to know that this is a fragrance that I really, really love. I love all 14, but I had to rank them for you. You will be very surprised when I tell you who is number 14 because this is a fragrance, my goodness, that has been hyped for so long, and people talk about it all the time. People compare it all the time. It has a cult following, and then there's also a group that just does not like this fragrance. I am speaking about ERBA PURA. So ERBA PURA is coming in at 14 because, to me, if I'm honest with you, this is the least original fragrance from the 14 that I'm going to share with you, and that is really how I feel about it. I also have always felt that this fragrance to my nose is very reminiscent to like a Tiziana Terenzi fragrance. It's that fruitiness and that musk. There's just something about it that reminds me so much of a Tiziana Terenzi fragrance in general, like the DNA of Tiziana Terenzi. But this is really a fragrance that I do pull when I'm in that mood for a very, very fruity, vanilla kind of centric with musk type of fragrance. This is definitely a fragrance that you can pull off during the spring and the summer, but those are the only 2 seasons where I pull this fragrance. This is not one that I would use during the fall or the winter at all. So coming in at number 13 is WARDASINA. Now, WARDASINA is a fragrance that I've discussed here on the channel before. I really do enjoy this fragrance. This is a very interesting take on a rose fragrance, because this fragrance is definitely a rose-centric fragrance, but it's coupled with patchouli and tobacco. Those are the dominant notes to my nose. And this is a fragrance that I love to use during the spring season, and I limit it to not so warm days during the summer. But this is definitely a lovely but very different rose fragrance. And I tell you, this is not a safe blind buy. So coming in at number 12, I have a fragrance that I've talked about here on the channel recently, and it's ACCENTO Overdose. Now, this is a fragrance that is absolutely lovely. It has a mix of like some fruity notes and some florals, some white florals. And then the interesting twist to this fragrance is that it also has like a tad of greenness, which keeps it fresh. This is a fragrance that is perfect for the spring and summer seasons, and it is quite lovely. The next fragrance that I have for you coming in at number 11 is JTC 400. Now, JTC stands for the Join the Club collection of Xerjoff. This fragrance is also one that I've discussed here on the channel before. It is absolutely glorious. It has the most beautifully blended and balanced combination of white and yellow florals. But the very interesting point of this fragrance is that honey note. The honey note has been done exquisitely. It also has a good amount of vanilla, and it has a beautiful powdery dry down. Coming in at number 10, I have Overture. Now, this is a fragrance, guys, that is not a safe blind buy at all. So even though I absolutely love this fragrance and I highly recommend it, this is one that I really recommend that you get yourself a sample or a decant and you test it on skin, because this is one of those fragrances that you must try on skin. Not just smell it like in any type of paper or anything else. You really have to try it on skin. There is some greenness to it. It's a bit spicy. And it is definitely a fragrance that gives me sexy, bold, confident type of vibes. I absolutely love this fragrance. This is another one that is quite different from all of my other Xerjoff fragrances. This is also a fragrance that you will notice is one fragrance once you spray it on your skin, and by the time it goes into the dry down mode, it's like a totally different fragrance. I absolutely enjoy that, but not everybody does, which is why I'm going to say yet again that this is not a safe blind buy. This is also a fragrance that I recommend more for the spring and for maybe not so warm summer days, but this is definitely a fragrance that I reserve specifically for the spring season. So coming in at number 9 is a fragrance that I believe, guys, is absolutely perfection for spring and summer, and I think has been done exquisitely. And I am speaking about Dama Bianca. Now this fragrance has such a beautiful combination of notes. It is a fragrance that is definitely powdery. It has some violet, which of course gives it that powderiness. It has some iris. It has of course some vanilla, some white florals. But this fragrance, guys, is so elegantly beautiful. It is perfect for any event, any occasion during the spring and summer seasons. Coming in at number 8 is Cambridge Club. Now this is a fragrance that I just spoke about recently here on the channel and that I absolutely love. This is Xerjoff's take on a rose fragrance that also has some fruitiness and kind of wants to border into gourmand territory, but not quite. So this is a rose. To me, the dominant notes are like rose and vanilla and caramel, and oh my goodness, it has been done exquisitely. This fragrance is also perfect for the spring and summer season. The next fragrance that I have for you coming in at number 7 is 1861 DECAS. I absolutely love this fragrance. This fragrance is very tuberose dominant, but the tuberose is like a creamy tuberose, and I also find that this fragrance is like perfect any time of the year. You can use it during the spring, during the summer, during the winter, during the fall, and it is such an elegant fragrance, such a beauty. It's also a very high compliment getter. It is a amber floral fragrance that is quite citrusy. Oh my goodness, have you ever gotten your nose on this fragrance? Because this fragrance is just exquisitely incredible. I just absolutely love it. There's such a brightness to the opening with those citrusy notes, but it's not a freshy fragrance. It has a lot of depth and a lot of oomph, you know, like a lot of personality to it. I just absolutely love it. Let me know if you've tried DECAS. So coming in at number 6 is a fragrance, guys, that I absolutely love. I've talked about this fragrance here on the channel. This fragrance is actually my favorite chocolate note fragrance in my entire collection. So that should tell you quite a bit. This fragrance is also highly addictive, and I am speaking about Symphonium. Now this fragrance, guys, oh my goodness. The dominant notes to my nose of this fragrance are that chocolate. I pick up on that chocolate immediately, and it stays with me throughout the entire journey and then at dry down. The chocolate here has been done exquisitely. This fragrance is a tad sweet, but not very sweet. It's really not a sweet fragrance. You get a lot of cardamom, you get some orange, you get some vanilla, and then to top it all off, you get like a touch of oud. But do not be concerned with the oud, because the oud is just a touch of oud. This is a fragrance that I recommend exclusively for the spring. I don't ever pull this fragrance during the summer. I have pulled it and used it during the fall, but I would never use it during the summer, and I don't think I would use it during the winter either. But this fragrance, I tell you, is highly addictive. Let me know if you've ever gotten your nose on Symphonium. Coming in at number 5 is a fragrance that I've also discussed with you here on the channel. I'm pretty sure I included it in the best fragrances for work and the office, because this is a fragrance that was actually my signature scent for the office for quite a long time. And I am speaking about RICHWOOD. Now, RICHWOOD is a fragrance that has a very dominant rose and patchouli type of combination. This is a fragrance that immediately speaks to wealth, confidence, wisdom, luxury. It is just an incredibly exquisite fragrance. This is a fragrance that is also, to my nose, quite mature. So I would say that this is a fragrance that I would recommend for 35 plus. This is definitely a fragrance that is going to get you compliments, but it's also going to make you feel, again, extremely confident. And this is a fragrance that I highly recommend for the spring. But I have to tell you that even though I know that this is more of a spring fragrance, this is a fragrance that I used all throughout the year for several years as my signature scent for the office. But although I had it primarily for the office and any event related to work, I can tell you that I used to pull it for special occasions, because I'm telling you, there is such a feel to this fragrance. Let me know if you've ever tried RICHWOOD. Coming in at number 4, and I have to tell you that all of the fragrances starting now with number 4, these are second and third bottles. So you must know how much I love them. So coming in at number 4, I have Dolce Amalfi. Now this fragrance is absolutely incredible. This is a fruity kind of fragrance that is sweet. You pick up immediately on the note, oh my goodness, on the note of quince and apple. There's also some vanilla here, which is done exquisitely, and there's some cardamom. This fragrance is, when I tell you, perfection for spring and summer, and it will get you so many compliments, and it's going to make you smell so delicious. It is just a beauty. Coming in at number 3 is a fragrance that I absolutely love and that I highly recommend, more for spring than summer. But I have to tell you that even though, again, I know it is perfect for a certain type of weather, I tend to pull it whenever I feel like I really need to spray myself with it because I love it that much. And this is definitely my second bottle, and I am speaking about Starlight. This is a fragrance that is very cardamom dominant, so you have to love that note. It also has a beautiful cinnamon and a bit of nuttiness coming from an almond note. This fragrance will get you so many compliments. I consider it to be very addictive, and this is a fragrance that sometimes I'll just go and spray just because. That's how much I love it. Let me know if you have or if you've tried Starlight. Now, if you've been with me for a while and you've heard me talk about fragrances, specifically Xerjoff fragrances, in one video or the other, I'm sure that you are missing 2 very specific fragrances and you're wondering which one will land in number 2 and which one in number 1. But coming in at number 2, I have La Capitale. La Capitale, guys, is an exquisitely perfect fragrance for spring and summer. You just can't beat that. You have here some strawberries, some peaches, some vanilla, some caramel, some saffron. How can you go wrong with it, right? But the blend is done just exquisitely. This is a fragrance that, oh my goodness, this fragrance is definitely hyped, but definitely worthy of all of the hype and all of the attention and all of the love that it has received. This is definitely a lifer for me. I can't imagine not having La Capitale in my collection. This is, like I said, perfection for spring and summer, and it will get you a ton of compliments. Let me know if you've gotten your nose on it and your thoughts. All right, so if you've been with me for a while, I think you know which one is going to be number 1. But if you think you know, can you just pause the video for a minute and go to the comments section and let me know, who do you think is going to be number 1? Because number 1 is none other than Cruz Del Sur II. Oh my goodness. This is a fragrance that, ooh la 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 la, makes me feel like I'm in heaven. This fragrance is just everything for me. It has 2 notes that I absolutely love. It has an incredible tropical feel, and those 2 notes are mango and guava. And together, which I never would have imagined would work, together they are just perfection for spring and summer. This is a fragrance, guys, that, oh my goodness, gets me so many compliments. But as soon as I spray it on my skin, it just changes my entire mood and adds a pep to my step. It is just a delight of a fragrance. I have talked about this fragrance here on the channel so many times, and I have recommended it to so many friends and family. I really encourage you to, if you've never gotten your nose on it, get yourself a sample, get yourself a decant. It is definitely, to me, a safe blind buy. But because of the price point, maybe you should still get yourself a sample and a decant and make sure that you love it as much as I do. The other interesting fact about this fragrance is that although it has that mango and guava and that whole tropical feel, it's like lactonic, and it also has some florals. So this is a fragrance that I dress up, I dress down. I use it for any occasion, whether I'm on vacation, whether I'm not on vacation. Sometimes even outside of the spring and summer seasons, I just spray myself with it because I love it. So let me know if you've tried Cruz Del Sur II. Alright guys, so we've reached the end of this video, and I hope that this was as enjoyable for you as it was for me, because I just love talking about fragrances that I absolutely love, and my Xerjoff fragrances are fragrances that I just feel so fortunate to have in my collection. All of the fragrances that I discussed with you today are fragrances that I highly recommend, and let me know if you've tried any of them, if you own any of them, and what are your thoughts? Thank you so much as always for hanging with me today, and I will see you in the next video.